sharing our stories connects us. Listen and be connected. Join us for the Conversation meeting weekly at the intersection of community and culture. Hosted by Mario Nunez and Joe King Carter. And today we have both community and culture on the menu. Hi, everybody. It's Wednesday. It's noon. It's noon and it's Wednesday. That means one thing and one thing only. The Conversation is live on WMNF 88.5 right here in Tampa. I'm Mario Nunez, one of your two able co-hosts. I'm seated, as always, next to my dear friend and partner in crime right here on WMNF, Joe King Carter. Joey, what do you say?
Hey, Mario.
What is that all about, Joey?
Yeah, baby. Good afternoon, everyone.
There he is.
Who's listening?
That's right. Joey, a lot of people might know you because you do some tours here in the in Ybor City.
Yes, I do.
And you're more than just a lay historian because you've put in the time, you've put in the work. You might not have the degrees per se, and I don't know. Do they give degrees out? Do they give a medallion?
I have a history degree.
There you go. But I mean, I think it would be cool, and you should start this, Joe. We're gonna right now. I'm going to bring it up. You and Max Herman and those that are of your ilk that do these tours in Ybor City.
Yes.
That secret society that is those that walk us through the streets of Ybor City and tell us all about it.
There are a few, yeah.
Of course there are. Mm-hmm. And this time of year, they're plentiful. You can see them. They're in their golf carts and they're walking their groups around.
Indeed.
I think you guys should start, and maybe it's you that needs to start this, Joey. You be the leader of the pack, where you don't earn your bona fides unless you have either a certain lapel pin or a certain medallion or something that distinguishes you as having taken a course. Because, anybody can lay out a shingle, man. And, you don't want anybody pulling your teeth. You know what I mean? You don't want anybody working on your teeth.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, how do we know who's credible and who's not credible? Joey?
Well, I don't know if I would want to have some kind of a system of emblem. I think that actually, to be honest with you, are the marketplace kind of regulates you in its own weird way because people come on your tour. You never know when the person on your tour
is another tour guide.
Is as informed as you are.
A shopper, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely. And occasionally
they'll call you out.
You are going to open up. Always be open to questions. That makes for a good tour for everyone. And there may be a person who says, well, I don't understand why this happened, and I don't understand why that happened. And I understood that Teddy Roosevelt did this. Mm-hmm. And so, that happens a lot. And I always welcome it because I trust my information about as best as you can.
I just know that in professional sports, if you're a member of the NFL or the Major League Baseball or the NBA, you've earned that right to be a part of that fraternity, and you get to wear the jersey, so to speak. Mm-hmm. I think there should be something to distinguish you guys. I'm going to leave it right there. You work on that for the next season because you're in full
the American Guild of
tour guides.
As
it relates to Ybor City. It relates to Ybor City. Why not? Joey, why not?
Well, okay. Yeah, it's okay.
We'll leave that right there. But
I'm not a big joiner, so you know me.
I know. You're more like a wildcat.
Yeah, I would just assume that men and women do tours and the good ones rise to the top.
Yeah, you're that feral cat that, we like to pet, but we have to be careful because we might get scratched.
Yeah, well.
But let me start, and speaking of animals, let me start. What a great segue. Let me start right up at the top, and I'm hoping that Duncan Strauss is listening right now as he's trying to solve the conundrum that he found himself in this morning, because Duncan, of course, he precedes us here on The Conversation, and his show has only existed here at WMNF for over 20 years, maybe closer to 30, talking animals. You just heard him, and he had Paula Poundstone on the show. We haven't, we've got
great catch.
Yeah, we've had some pretty high-profile people on our show, but I don't know if we can brag about a Paula Poundstone.
Absolutely.
But I have to say this. Duncan, if you're listening, you're my hero. You are our North Star here on Wednesday mornings.
Yes.
Because my man drives in, and people don't know this, but he drives in every week from South Florida. I know it's about a 3-hour trek, so you can just decide what area he's in, that he's coming from. And this morning he had an incident.
You're describing dedication.
Yeah, well, no, he had an incident.
Commitment and dedication.
Incident.
Absolutely.
Where either he hit something in real time that fell off of a truck or out of a car, or it was there and he just couldn't avoid it, and his vehicle became disabled.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to add to the story and say that His forehead was bloodied. His arm was twisted.
No.
I can't say that?
No.
Okay,
no,
I just want to add a little more drama to it.
No, we can't do
but
that.
But Duncan wasn't hurt, thank goodness. But here's the thing.
Thank goodness,
Here's the
yes.
point of this. The point of this is my man called in from an undisclosed remote location in
He soldiered on.
in Lake Wales.
Yes.
He recruited the staff here at WMNF, which is some of the most talented people we know. And he was able to do his show live from a remote location, even though he was disabled on the way into the studio. So,
Yeah.
Duncan, that bell is for you.
Yeah.
And we'll give you a hug next week when we see you, my brother, because you're going to need it. Next week, we're going to be doing some fundraising.
Well,
You know,
that's pretty, you and I've had a couple of close calls where it's gotten a little
yeah, it was
hairy.
2 weeks ago,
But-
remember?
Yeah, but it's not really nothing like that. I mean, that's pretty amazing. And like you just said, hats off to Duncan for his commitment and his dedication to what he does, because that's a pretty cool thing too. A lot of people would have been tempted to say, I can't do the show.
Well, he had Paula Poundstone calling
Well,
in
I
live,
know.
so
I mean, the
he
show
wasn't
must
gonna-
go on,
Right,
right?
right. In that case, he had to
But
do what
still.
he had to do.
Yeah.
And it was a great show. And if you missed it, you can listen to it always
was. It went
in the
beautifully.
archives. And I don't know, because I didn't quite catch the beginning of it. I don't know if he mentioned what I just disclosed. And I didn't ask his permission to disclose it.
Well, that's okay.
But I wanted him to know. And
I think people love the behind scenes.
No, and I wanted everybody to know that, WMNF community radio as it stands on its own means a great deal to not only the programmers like Joe and myself and Duncan certainly and all of us.
Yeah.
But, we don't want to miss, man. We get a chance
Yeah.
to do this once a week. It's important to us. It's important to our listening audience. And we have to be here for
It's
you.
the way we give.
And next week we're going to ask that if you enjoy what we do here and you appreciate what we do, that you offer a give back to us, because next week
Give us a little money, folks.
next week is that fun time when
We
we get a
want
chance
some money.
to do some fundraising.
Yeah.
and we'll get there. That's next week.
Oh, absolutely.
But this week, Joey, in keeping with the theme in February here at WMNF and Black History Month.
Yeah.
Let's talk. You and I are going to carry the conversation today, and I know
Open it up to the phone lines.
certainly, and I know that you and I are both. We don't have a lack for words that come out of our
Well,
mouths.
there's that.
Yeah, well, that's why you're a tour guide. That's why I'm a TV host. That's why
Yeah.
we're both radio hosts.
Yes.
But in this case, I think we're going to talk today a little bit about Black History Month as it relates to maybe perhaps Brown History Month, Black and Brown history, and in the wake of what Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio just pulled off this past Sunday, Bad Bunny, better known as Bad Bunny, and set the world ablaze. He's been on the scene for 10 years. He cut his first big hit back in 2016, so it's not like he's just snuck up on us.
Well, of course.
But his fans have been there with him since the beginning. And now I think he just blew the cover off of it so everybody knows who he is. And if you've seen the video, if you haven't seen the video, over 130 million people watched it live. At least that many number of people have seen it on YouTube.
Yes.
And it's there. And if you haven't seen it, I suggest you go watch and if you saw it and you want to know where you could watch it again, of course, the first place you should go is YouTube.
Right.
It's significant. If I have a question for Bad Bunny, it would be like, okay, did you think of all the symbolism on your own, the choreography on your own? Did you have help? I got to assume he had some help, but he hit it out of the park. Joey, I know we talked. And I know you hadn't had a chance to see it. I hope.
I saw it.
Yeah, because I sent it to you afterwards.
Well, I went to YouTube and watched it. And
Pretty impressive.
Because I'm not somebody who would watch probably a football game.
That's un-American, Joe. I'll leave it right there.
The point is, I did watch it because it was a cultural moment, and I thought I should be informed. And what I took away from it was that it was rather amazing, the display of what I would call Latino culture.
Yes.
As opposed to exactly Spanish culture.
No,
That's
specifically
a little different.
Puerto Rican. It was specifically
very
Puerto Rican.
Latino.
Yep.
And
Puerto Rican.
and of the Caribbean and of all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I have done in the past my strange career that's gone everywhere. I've
Yes.
done set designs and theatrical designs before, and when I was much younger, and I really loved that little structure that was sort of representative of the
The
kind of
sugarcane field or the casita?
no. The buildings that were really sort of a bodega structure.
Oh, New York. The street scene in New York.
The barrio.
Yep, the
In
street
the
scene in New
barrio.
York, the barrio.
That was very. That had such a symbolism for me because when I think of all of the cultures of Latin culture, I think of those kinds of that kind of cultural place where. Much more so than we Americans do, that culture tends to live a little bit more in the streets, if that makes sense. And out in the street, I thought that was really well portrayed. The telephone lines, the as well as the sugar cane fields and the other things. But I thought it was the visual representation of it.
Everything.
Aside from the energy of it or the music of it.
From the Piragua cellars to the ladies that were there, it was a brief moment that if you blinked, you might have missed it. But there were 4 ladies that were standing in front of a brick wall, concrete block wall, right? A little semi-wall there. Significant, that was a wink and a nod to Puerto Rican culture as it relates to the matriarch. And the symbolism there was it's the women that hold the family together, the women that are the building blocks, if you were. That's where the cement blocks came in.
Yes.
And, and for those that don't know, I'll spill the beans now. Half of my heartbeat is from the island of Puerto Rico because my mother was born in Ponce and my grandmother was born in Juana Diaz, and I have family all throughout the island. My history goes all the way back through my great-grandparents on Puerto Rico, and the other half, of course, migratory route from Cuba. We've talked about this.
Yes.
Yep, the cigar workers. That's how we got here.
Right.
But my mother made the migration from Puerto Rico to New York when she was just but a year old with her parents. So Puerto Rico has always been in my, we celebrate the traditions in my house. So long story short, and in my professional career as I traveled, I realized, the Puerto Rican and the Cuban culture are not the only Hispanic cultures. Obviously, when you go further west you then are under the influence of the Mexican culture, which, a couple of generations back on my father's side, there's Veracruz, Mexico, that's in my history as well. So, but that night, it was a celebration of all things Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, as I was watching it, and it was 13 minutes of pure joy, as I was watching it, I got more and more verklempt. That my
it's emotional for you.
My eyes got misty. I realized what was happening, what I was seeing in real time, and by the time the crowd parted and Lady Gaga began to sing, I was lost.
Yeah.
And then as if that wasn't enough, they brought in Ricky Martin, and then I said, oh no, he pulled all the stops.
Right.
So anyway, so today let's talk a little bit about the cultural. And I'm going to let you have the mic here in a second, Joey. Let's talk about Black history and as it relates and connects to brown history, which, people don't realize it, but the indigenous people that were on the islands that were subjugated. And what's at the base of all of this, Joey? What was the one crop? I know I gave it away. What was the one driving force that not only drove legislation in this country, but also is what kept Hawaii under our governing arm, Puerto Rico, Cuba, to a less extent, Haiti, the Dominican Republic. What crop was it, Joey? You mentioned
You're referring to sugar?
Absolutely, sugar.
Okay.
Sugar being king.
Yeah.
Right? So with that as the backdrop, we'll solicit for your calls in just a little while because we want to hear from you as well. If you were offended, we want to hear from you. If you were emotionally connected to the story and inspired, we want to hear from you. Or if you just have a question or a comment you'd like to share, we'll give you that number in just a few minutes. Let's start with you, Joy.
Well, what I found interesting about it, because that's not my family history, but I can appreciate it, is I found this whole clamor, this whole controversy about this, which you have to appreciate, Mario. You and I represent two ends of a spectrum in terms of certainly sports, and in the true sense of the word fan. you are fanatical as a sports person. I am. I mean, it's been your whole life.
If it was round and it rolled, I chased after it.
I am an atheist as a sports person, and I have no interest at all. And so, consequently, we represent two, and I think that's a good thing.
Of course,
that we can be together and be friends and have that position. I think there's respect I have for your position. You have respect for mine. Now, having said that, here's what the Super Bowl is for me. It's a game. It's just not important. Now, having said that, I realize it's important to the culture.
Yeah, some people are screaming at their radios right now.
I understand. I understand it's important to many people, but for me, it was not important at all. And this controversy of the halftime show, 15 minutes of time in our lives, so controversial that, as I understand, the people on the other side of that issue created their own halftime.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. Now, let me ask you this. If you are, things like xenophobia and ethnophobia is a fascinating subject to talk about. Why are we uncomfortable in the presence of people who have different cultural heritages than we do? And you would think of all the places on earth that this should not be happening, ironically is happening way too often, and that is here in the United States of America. Now, having said that, North America. So, having said that, I just found it so fascinating that people were so upset by this. And it's a 15-minute and here's my viewpoint. It's a 15-minute performance in the midst of a game that's not important. It's just not important to the universe. We're not talking about curing cancer. We're not talking about some political moment.
Solving world hunger.
We're not talking about women's rights or civil rights. We're talking about a football game, folks. And yet, and I don't mean to minimize its importance, I'm just saying that's what it is. Why are these people? And so, I'm watching, because I like to go to the other side. I'm watching these talking heads who are on the political right saying, well, not one word was in English. And this is. And
send him back to his country.
And they're using words like, this is un-American. Really? Actually, what you don't realize, it's the most American thing you could do is to celebrate another culture. It just astounds me that this became an issue for people. And also, folks, if you are someone who is hanging desperately to your Anglo-Saxon heritage, be informed that America has always had Spanish and Latino people in its history. Always. You have been here from the beginning.
Long before the British colonies, Joey, Spain was all over Florida and gave Florida its name. And St. Augustine is the oldest settlement in the United States of America. And Spanish was probably spoken there long before it was spoken anywhere else in this country.
But here's the fascinating thing.
On this land.
This ethnic phobia, why do we get uncomfortable?
Yeah.
What is it about us that makes us get uncomfortable when we're in the presence of people? Do we feel offended because maybe they're saying something in their language and we don't understand it?
And they're talking about us?
Yeah.
Is your conscience that guilty?
Yeah. Because really, all of these great things, you do appreciate, folks, that if you love pizza, you owe that to the Italians and Sicilians.
If you like James Cagney, you dirty rat.
I mean, all of these things that have come to America that have become so profoundly American in our culture, it has come from other people in other places.
Well, and this country, if it were not for the Mayflower and the descendants from the Mayflower, and the people that were probably expelled from Great Britain as a result of their fanaticism in the church, they just needed they were thrown out. They were like, you are outcasts now. So they took to the high seas, landed somewhere in Plymouth Rock, somewhere around where Massachusetts is today. And if it were not for the indigenous people who knew how to plant and sow and reap and hunt and fish and survive the winters in the north, these people might not have survived, and that might not have been a bad thing. But because we know what happened to the Native Americans after that, and isn't it just ironic? Okay, so Joey, I'm gonna set it up this way.
Well, this also leads to Black history, doesn't it? Because what we really did, and maybe it should not be surprising that we're so ethnophobic, because we came to this country and we hijacked the land and all of its value
Assets, sure.
from the Aboriginal peoples of America, this America, not South. Well, we did it in South America too, by
Correct.
the way. And so we hijacked them, and then we proceeded to enact genocide against them. And then, as we built this economy, we began to build it on the backs of slaves.
Free labor.
So there are two major groups here that we immediately treated very horrifically. And so maybe it's not surprising that we're ethnophobic. But the irony of all this is that we are those people that consider themselves white, whatever that means, are the minority on planet Earth.
Well,
There are more people of Asian characteristics and African
and
characteristics,
that's just a
and East Indian black
Papa,
people.
that's just a question of where your colony, where your tribe originated. Because the
Right.
closer to the equator, obviously, the more the sun
Yeah.
has effect on your skin,
Yeah.
and so the melanin. You know what I mean?
I mean, this isn't controversial.
No, it's biology. It's
white
biology.
people are the minority on planet Earth.
Yeah.
And yet they seem to exert this influence in which they think that they are often
Dominion.
the dominion of everything that is around them. And a lot of those problems, frankly, have come from that.
Well, and I think if you stop and consider also, we talked, I don't know if I mentioned this on the show or in one of our conversations over the phone, but this year, I celebrate in 50 years. This time, 50 years ago, I was fixing to graduate from high school.
Wow.
Right? So I graduated in 1976, so you don't have to do the math, I'll do it for you.
Wow.
And I know exactly how short that period of time has been because I know exactly what cologne I was wearing back in my high school senior year. That would be Jovan Musk. I knew I had longer hair. I knew I was wearing baggy pants and bell bottoms. You know what I mean? It was that platform shoes. You know what I mean? It was KC and the Sunshine Band. We were doing it. But here's the thing. That 50-year period of time went by in a wink. So if you take that 50 years and you go 50 years before, right? So now instead of 1976, it's 1926. All you have to do is do that 3 more times, and you're back to 1776. This country is not that old.
No.
And all of the horrific things that have happened to these marginalized groups that we've been talking about,
Yes.
marginalized and in some
Yes.
worse than that, is not that long ago.
Right.
You know, in this country, blacks, African Americans did not have the right to vote until 1965. We're all alive in 65, Joey.
Yeah, right.
65 is yesterday.
Yeah,
It's
well,
yesterday.
yeah,
It is yesterday, Joseph.
Right, yes.
So, you know, my point is we really do need to keep our eye on the ball. I think Bad Bunny did us a great service by highlighting Puerto Rican culture because it kind of let everybody else know, just be your authentic self. And oh, by the way, being a Latino is not the worst thing that could happen to you. and oh, by the way, Texas by 2045 statistically will be a majority brown state.
Right.
You know, in Texas, up until about 1865, was its own country. I mean, it had its own nation, I should say.
Yeah.
That's why they call it the United States of Texas. You know, that's
Right.
why there's only one star on that flag. Oh, no, they had their own constitution.
Right, I
They
know,
elected
I
their
know.
own president.
Yep.
It was an outpost.
Yeah.
And it's probably why they didn't realize until 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation that, you know, African Americans were no longer indentured.
Right.
So I'm just saying our country has a long and complicated history, but I think the pendulum is swinging,
Right.
and some people are just hanging tooth and nail onto what's going on, and they don't like it. They don't like it.
Yes.
But I don't know that they can stop it, Joey. Now, tell us a little bit about your family history, because I know as you were talking about your antecedents, you know, you were talking a little bit about that history.
Well, let me
Share some of that with
Let me
us.
just say, first of all, we're using the word resistance. We use it here at the station now, and I think it's kind of in a weird way. They are the resistance. They're resisting change.
Correct.
And all we are doing is moving forward in a natural evolution.
Correct.
So it's very strange. Well, you were asking me about my family. So I had my particular relationship is that in the last 5 years, I was put in a position to do a lot of genealogical research because I connected with I united with a part of my biological family that I had never been.
Fascinating story.
And in that process, my genealogy search taught me many things. And here's one for you to consider. If you are a Anglo-Saxon white person in America and your family goes back to the very beginning, prior to 1776, let's say, very, 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 very likely your relatives owned slaves. It was a common practice. And you might have had 10 slaves. You might have had 300 slaves, but this was common, okay? And this moral offense was common. And in the very beginning of America, we enslaved white people, by the way, indentured servants from England. We enslaved the Portuguese, and then the Atlantic slave trade made it even more easy to enslave Africans, who we would call black people today. And if we had Walter Smith II here,
that's right.
I would not be able to say any more on the subject because
you'd have to relinquish the microphone.
I'd have to relinquish because
we love you, Walt. We love you.
Yeah, Walter would go deep,
buck wild,
and beautifully. By the way, I'm sure. My first relative born in the United States, born as a native, was a man named Robert King Carter. And Robert King Carter became essentially one of the first 1%ers of the colonies. He owned more land than anyone else. He became the governor of the colony of Virginia. He became the Speaker of the House of the Burgesses. And the House of Burgesses was basically the forerunner of what we call the House today. And so he was a very powerful man, and he was a very wealthy man. And he had more slaves than any other person in America. And then he had...
And you share some of his DNA, Joey?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Was he light-eyed like you?
Yes, he was.
All right, okay.
Yeah. And so it's a ways back there, folks. But he was born in 1665. So he's way before the revolution.
Yeah, that's way back.
And so, but America is cranking. You know, the colonies are cranking in that sense. And he has a son named Robert Carter II. And then Robert Carter has a son named Robert Carter III. And Robert Carter III is a fascinating human being because he was different. And he was different because he had a kind of, I don't know. He must have had an artistic sensibility or a spiritual sensibility. But he was the first in the family line to become a Baptist. And during this time, it's hard for us to conceive today, the Baptists were the radicals because the Anglican Church was like in control, right? So he becomes a Baptist. That's kind of a radical thing to do, not really appreciated by the family. And he inherits from his father, who had inherited from his father, more slaves than any person in America, and was very wealthy. And he proceeds to become immediately a different kind of man. And there's no way to call a slave owner a morally correct person, but he becomes the most humane of slave owners in the area. And he becomes renowned for this. And he becomes rejected for this. And he will see that that the people who are his slaves are, I could go through a long laundry list of positives that he wants them to enjoy.
Just caring for them in ways that had not been.
Yes. And so to make a long story short, he ends up traveling to Europe on several occasions, and he gets involved in a mystical religion in Sweden. This is weird. And now he's taking his Baptist religion very seriously, by the way. And now he takes this religion very seriously, and he comes back home, and he frees his slaves. And that is, they used to call that manumitting, I believe it is. Manumitting. He manumits 400 people in one day. He eventually will free more individuals than anyone had prior to the Civil War and the Emancipation Proclamation. And so he takes this very seriously. He's also takes very seriously the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and he says, all men are equal. And so, so ironically, in my background is the guy who was the biggest bad guy, and the guy that up until Abraham Lincoln was the biggest good guy.
Wow.
And all of those are in the same family line with President Jimmy Carter, and so it's a fascinating connection, right? How that all works. So you never know who's back there, right?
Yeah, and it's good to know once you do know, because you're a man of conscience. You're a man of higher learning and a man of consciousness, right? So,
well, thank you.
Yeah, no, you are, Joey. You are. People that know that about you. Deep thinker and a humanitarian. And you know the difference between right and wrong.
Yeah.
And hopefully, most of our listening audience is also of the same ilk. Let's do a station ID. Gosh, Joey, the conversation is going so fast today. Let's do a station ID real quick. We'll come back. I see you. We've got a caller waiting for us. We'll get to that caller in just a second, but let's do the station ID, and we'll give away the phone number here in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Eric Holland, and you're listening to The Conversation with Mario Nunez and Joe King Carter on WMNF 88.5 FM in Tampa.
Man, I love that guy.
Chef Eric.
Chef Eric, he's so cool.
Can't wait to eat some of his food, because I'm telling you right now, his black beans are legendary.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Black beans. On point.
No, he was awesome.
So we'll give away the number now. We'll go to our callers, and bear in mind, Gabriela is answering the phones for us today. 813-239-9663 is the number. Operators are standing by. 813-433-0885. If you'd like to send us a text, you can always send us an email, and our engineer producer, Jessica, is standing by, and she'll answer those for you. DJ at WMNF.org. Today, we want to get your impressions on Black History, on Black History Month, on maybe the complicated history that is the United States of America. If you happen to have your Latino pride up today and you want to talk a little bit about how Bad Bunny made you feel after Sunday, because I know a lot of people that I'm in my world, in my circle, are just beaming, feeling finally for the first time maybe that they've been seen, right? And of course, Florida. Florida boasts the fact that it is, of all the 48, I should say, contiguous United States, excluding Hawaii and Alaska, boasts the most Spanish speakers in the country. I mean, you think it'd be New York because of the population. No, Florida. Florida has more than anybody else, especially after Hurricane Maria. So between the Puerto Rican population, indigenous Puerto Rican population that was here, that came over after Maria, the Cubans that have been here since 1959, and everybody else from Venezuela, Nicaragua, Honduras, everybody else that's come here, Argentina, everybody else, Florida boasts the most Spanish speakers. So what am I saying, Joey? That's quite a
hola.
That's hola, ¿qué tal? Hola, ¿qué tal, mi amigo? No, that's quite a voting block.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's quite a voting block. So if they ever got together, cuidado. Let's go to the phone. Let's go to the phone lines. DeAndre from Brandon, our dear friend DeAndre. Hey, DeAndre, how are you today?
I'm hanging in there. Good afternoon, Jim. Thanks for taking my call.
Always.
Yeah, I learned my Spanish from La Calle personally. I could never really find any instruction in elementary, so I ended up grabbing books from the library down there in Nebraska, and that didn't really work. The tapes, I play them, overnight. And try to get that subliminal overnight.
I know. You can fall asleep with them, so you wake up, you dream in Spanish. I know.
Yeah, those movies, they make it seem like it's going to work. It never works. But anyway.
I did the same thing, DeAndre, with Portuguese, and my Spanish base kept getting in the way. I would have had an easier time learning Portuguese, Brazilian Portuguese specifically, when I was still flying, to be able to communicate with those nice folks down there in Brazil. But the reality is, my Spanish kept kind of jacking my style.
It's all in between those in the Mediterranean languages. There's those little caveats. Yeah, man. But I was calling because being African American from Tampa, peeping into the history, knowing some different landmarks and names, I get concerned about this one sign that I actually learned from friends of ours there, Mario, that basically has been erased, and it's Robert Meacham. it's an intense story of a black Republican who actually helped construct Florida's Constitution. He died in 1902 following, I guess, slavery being emancipated. I could be butchering that information terribly, but one thing I understood, he became a teacher, and he lived out his life following many great strides here in Tampa, where his grave is gone. Black Republican, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And, when we get into the politics of a lot of these things, and the let's just say the commercial aspect of a lot of it, knowing things like that, it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy, I think, to expose people to given facts.
They reject them half the time anyway, out of hand, because they don't want to believe them. So it doesn't fit their narrative, and as a result, they dismiss it out of hand.
Very much so. So it's like trying to catch a bull. I mean, I don't know, something crazy, or that merry-go-round, but your buddies spun it up real fast.
Oh, remember that at the playground?
Yeah, the playground, especially next to, Malfunction Junction.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something.
I used to call that thing the Wheel of Death, because if you ever got caught underneath it, half of them were made out of metal back in the day, and if you ever got a cut from one of those...
Yeah, you don't want to touch it. And so this is what the information feed is like when we're not operating off of the same values and information. And unfortunately, you know, I just have to point it out, you know, because when we talk about these parties and what's going on here, what's going on there, it's disruptive, if not destructive, to the mind. And I just wanted to point that out.
Well, we don't disagree.
In Tampa.
We certainly appreciate you, my brother, because we know we know you're listening each week, and for the most part, we are right there with you, man. I mean, I don't know that you've ever said anything that's caught me off guard. I said, DeAndre, are you okay?
Yeah.
Never.
Well, DeAndre, let me also say to you that I have actually been thinking a little bit about you, because I'm aware, by the way, of Meacham as well. And on a previous show, when I was talking about a Founders Day, you said maybe we should also be looking at those black African Americans who are involved in the history of Tampa. And of course, I'm aware of Madam Fortune Taylor. But what we have been, what we do is book guests on our show, and we book them for a whole variety of reasons, mostly just to expose their personal narrative to the community so we can all connect. But I have been working, and Mario and I have been working on getting Fred Hearns.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, working on trying to get Fred Hearns in here. And it is, and I will take your question. I've been doing a little research, but I would love to take your question directly to Fred, and I will do so when we get him in here. And
it's an important one. It would actually, I mean, it's one of many important questions pertaining to Tampa's history that, full picture of. And really, we don't get that with any space. I mean, how are you going to, grow? How are you going to repair, heal?
Right.
How are you going to coexist?
How are you going to move forward?
Right.
How are you going to move forward?
And when I came to Tampa 50 years ago, and I came from a community where essentially, like so many communities in America and in the South particularly, in my hometown, all of the black people lived in one part of town, and the white people lived in another part of town. And
very much the same with downtown Tampa.
Sure.
And it's not very well understood, but there was a little pocket of a ghetto that had been there for some decades ahead of being renovated into the skyrise, the mixed income skyrise that's there now. And,
Encore.
There was Encore. Yeah.
Encore,
Correct.
yeah. So you're talking about the scrub, basically.
Yep.
And what made that a little different, though, was that the scrub was right on the edge of Ybor City, and so you had black people who were interacting and living amongst the Latinos and the Spaniards, and it made for a little different dynamic, I've noticed. And that history is fascinating.
Something that caught me off guard recently that I learned is for a time, anybody who spoke Spanish in Florida that were black were excluded from actually, or somehow reprimanded for speaking in Spanish as a black person to some effect.
Well, that's because I'll tell you very quickly. That's because the situation in Cuba in 1885 when he comes here is different, and they had prejudice, of course, but they did not have the Jim Crow laws. So you had Afro-Cubans who were doing very well in Cuba, or not well, but either way, they wanted to come here and be a part of this adventure. And now when they get here, not only can they not drink in a water fountain, not only can they not eat in a restaurant, but they cannot marry a person who is of a different color, which wasn't quite the case in Cuba. And so you have Afro-Cubans who speak Spanish, who come from a completely different culture, and the only person they can marry and start a family with is a person from the tradition of Southern black slavery in America, and they're completely different people. They don't share the same music, they don't share the same food, they don't share the same language. And unfortunately and sadly, to make those marriages work, oftentimes it was the Afro-Cuban who had to lose his culture,
his identity, sure,
to just fit in.
DeAndre, my brother, thank you as always for being there for us. And listen, next week, tell all your friends we're going to be doing some fundraising. So send a little bit of love our way. I know you always do. We got some. I'm looking right now at the chart. It's a little poster that we put here in the studio.
I hear DeAndre's got a lot of money.
No, listen, man, he's going to share some of it with us. But yeah, we've got some really neat items. Neat items coming up next week for those that do decide to donate and share the love. Thank you, DeAndre, as always, for being there for us. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you, sir. Listen,
Joey, so we're here we go. We got about 13 minutes left in the show. Let's kind of talk
about Black history.
Well, or how it relates, how it's relevant still to this day, right?
Yes.
Because we've always heard to the victor go the spoils, right? To the victor go the spoils. But also, you know what else goes to the victor? The opportunity to rewrite history, right? The opportunity to whitewash history. I'm using that term intentionally. The opportunity to rewrite history. And again, 100 years ago was only 1926. My father was born in 1928.
Yeah.
I mean, he's still with us, so... Yeah, it's not that long ago.
No.
And Mr. Ybor was here, Ybor City's 130 plus years old?
Yes. So it'll be 100, yeah.
And Tampa's 140 something years old. Not that long ago.
Right.
The Tocobaga Indians were running around this place. So we got to put everything in perspective.
Well, the history of Black History Month started with historian Carter G. Woodson, who was involved with the ASNLH. How about that?
Go ahead, brother. Give it to me, because I don't know what all that stands for.
That's the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History.
Okay.
And that organization deemed the second week of February in 1926 Negro History Week. That's where it started. And then and the reason for that week was it was Abraham Lincoln's birthday was on February 12th.
Correct, President's Day.
And Frederick Douglass's birthday is on February 14th. So they chose that week to be the week to celebrate Black history. And then through many, many years, it went through the hands of teachers and academicians, and in Washington, D.C., and struggles. Black newspapers in America that promoted the idea. It wasn't a very popular thing.
I can assume.
Popular among members of the black community,
of course,
but not among the white community. And then
this country has a very complicated history.
Yeah, and a very racist history, frankly.
Yeah,
and so,
thank you for saying that.
And so,
and if you disagree with us, why don't you give us a call at 813-239-9663 if you want to defend that racist history?
And
come
so
on now.
In the 1970s, Negro History Week was expanded to Black History Month. And it is so very, very important for us to honor the culture and the life of Black Americans who have contributed and been here all along and have been a part of our culture all along. And for people to have People need to get past this thing of melanin. Let's get past that, folks. And it's hard. I know it's hard for people, but we have to work together as Americans. And I'm beginning to have a strangely positive
Come
feeling.
on, Joey. Come on, are you having a conversion?
There's something's happening.
Joey.
I'm beginning to think that what's happening in our culture right now could actually lead us to waking up.
Oh, wait a minute. That's your first bell ring of the week for
How
Joey.
about that stuff, folks?
I love it. And you know what? I'm going to tell you that the reason you're feeling that way today, 2 words.
Yes.
Bad Bunny.
Oh.
Because I'm thinking Bad Bunny, I'm telling you, man, he flipped the script on people. He let everybody know that it's okay. It's okay to embrace your culture, whatever that culture is, man, whatever that culture is.
Well, also, I think if people are seeing, now that people are seeing the extreme hatred pouring into the streets, pouring into our government, pouring into our institutions and this administration,
Joey,
they are saying, wait a minute, that's not really,
that's not who we are.
That's not who we are.
The only thing that defeats hate is love. The only thing that defeats hate is love. I'm going to say it one more time because if I say it 3 times, then Beetlejuice will appear. The only thing that defeats hate is love. You can't defeat it with more hate. You can't do it. Light is the only thing that obscures the darkness. Light is the only thing that cures
it's Martin
the
Luther
darkness.
King. Dr. King said, if you open a door between a dark room and a light room, the light pours into the dark room.
It ain't the other way around.
The dark doesn't pour into the light room.
It ain't the other way around.
And that's exactly it.
So look, we got about 10 minutes left in the show. If you'd like to call us and just let's do a lightning round thing, man. Let's do something. Pick up your phone and give us a call. I'm practicing for next week's fundraising. Pick up your phone, give us a call. We're not asking for money this week. We're just asking for, just real quick, did you like Bad Bunny's performance? Did you care for it or not? And if you didn't, you can call us, man. Don't be shy. Don't be bashful. 813-239-9663. We won't ask for you to defend your position. We'll just ask for you to say yes or no. Jessica, has anything come in the emails that you'd like to read for our audience that's leaning into their radios right now? Gabriella's standing by to answer your phone calls, 813-239-9663. We want to hear from you. If Bad Bunny switched you on, and you got excited when you saw Lady Gaga dancing, when you heard Ricky Martin singing. I mean, there were so many symbols in that 13-minute show. It was incredible. But I think that's why you're feeling the way you're feeling, Joey. I really do. Jessica?
Well, I think Pat at U Tampa says that people are upset about the Bad Bunny performance should read Hector D. St. John's Crevecoeur's What is an American from 1782. Even early Americans understand that cultural diversity was what made the new nation great, and unlike the empires of Europe, they like to frame the celebration of cultural diversity as woke, but it's as old as America itself.
And that was from
Great
Pat
quote.
at the University of Tampa.
Who was that again?
U Tampa. Pat.
Thank you, Pat. Absolutely. You are correct. 1,000%.
Spot on. And I just want to mention right now, before we go off the air, that for those of you that are also excited whenever Jessica cues the mic, because she's got a great radio voice. She just doesn't use it often enough. And she's sitting over there now. She's sitting even lower in her seat because she doesn't want me to look at her. But and listen, we love it. It's like, because you hear from Joey, you hear from me, and then all of a sudden you get that soft voice from the other side. And it's just wonderful. It's a wonderful elixir. So thank you, Jessica, for reading that. Thank you, Pat, for submitting that. And our audience is out there, and they are listening, Joey. And I think really and truthfully, what you suggested a moment ago, that you're starting, even old curmudgeonly Joe King Carter is starting to soften up around the edges. It's been an intensely negative experience for a long time now, and I think that we are beginning to see a crack.
I
heard this from one of the pundits the other day. And it resonates with me. Why the show was so poignant, and why the show, for all the obvious reasons and the symbolism and the fact that Bad Bunny was highlighting just a wonderfully fascinating and amorous and adorable culture that is the Puerto Rican people. I can say that because I'm Puerto Rican. Yo soy Boricua. The reason I think is because for those 13 to 15 minutes that we watched the show, it was nothing but joy and positivity and music and dance. And when was the last time that we had 15 minutes of nothing but joy and positivity and dance, where we didn't have to worry about, third world erupting into a full blaze? So anyway,
and didn't have to worry about an apparel malfunction.
Oh my God, remember that? Oh, we had a caller and they left us. Call caller, we saw you there. Call back. We saw you there. But
by the way, to Pat's comment again.
Yes.
You want to make America great again?
Yes.
Make America diverse again.
Yep.
This has always been our
Make the
strength.
diversity count.
Yeah,
Make it valuable. Make it an asset.
Because really, to be truthful, this is our story. Our
Come
story
on.
is the great, supposedly the light on the hill. We are
The Irish, the Italian, the Jewish.
all
Do we
of
need to
these
go
people
on?
that have come here.
Do we need to go on? First, it was the Northern Europeans, right? Western and then Northern Europeans.
Yes.
And then once they exhausted that train and ensconced themselves into our culture here in the U.S., then we needed a new wave of immigrants because you know what? Immigrants, as we learned from watching Hamilton, immigrants get the job done. Then we needed a new wave of immigrants, and those came from the Southern Hemisphere, right? From the islands. And so, listen, that is
But
the
we also
story
have
of America.
That's right. We have a wave of people in our country right now that over the last couple of decades who are from the Middle East. And
they've come from China. They've come from
everywhere.
Japan.
Yeah.
Lin-Manuel Miranda, I mean, he has told us on no uncertain terms, immigration is the story of our country. And if you deny it, you're not paying attention. And if you deny it, you're on the wrong side of history. Okay. The white settlers got here. Fine, Joey. Your people brought all their light-haired and light-eyed people with them. Fine. They got thrown out of England because they were so radical there with their belt buckles on their shoes and their hats and their scarlet letter and their stockade.
Hey,
and
don't be hating on my blue eyes, brother.
Well, I kind of wish I had them sometimes. But anyway, I'm just saying. This country is as diverse as café con leche.
Absolutely.
And you got to have them both to make it work.
That's
Otherwise,
what makes it fun, too, by the way.
Come
That's
on.
what makes it so
you know as well as I
enjoyable.
do. That's why people hate Bad Bunny, because Bad Bunny is incredibly talented, and he's fun, and he's 31 years old, and he's got the world by the tail right now, and people just resent that. They're haters everywhere. That's sad. That's sad, Joey. Joey, what's coming up next week for us, man? We got about 3 minutes. Let's talk about next week.
Well, next week,
what are we going to be doing?
We're going to be fundraising.
Begging for money.
And remember, folks, that...
I hate to beg for money.
We don't want to go very far with it right now because you're going to be hearing a lot of it next week. But we have been cut off from almost all of our funding that comes to us from various sources. And you are now the ones who are keeping the station alive and awake and open and running. And so please just be prepared that we're going to be as entertainingly as possible.
Yes. Then the conversation will be asking for your support.
We are going to be asking for money.
We don't know what happens when we don't meet our fundraising goals. We don't know if we get taken out back and thrashed. We don't know if we get shackled to a building in the sun. We don't know. We don't know, but we don't want to know.
The shame.
Yeah. We'll get a scarlet letter, or we got to wear a dunce hat.
Yeah, we have met our goals in the past. Please help us do it again.
Yeah, we've met them every single time, and
That's
you guys
right.
have always come through with flying colors. So you can
Thank
start
you.
doing it now by going
Thank
to
you, everyone.
WMNF.org and just kind of directing, seek out the conversation where you make your donation. But if you want to wait until next week, if you're the kind of voter that likes to go to the polls on voting day, then just join us next week, and we'll do it. We'll do it here, and we'll do it all
And we'll be
together.
describing all of those wonderful donation swags we have.
Joey,
that are
look at the
available.
list right over there. Look at the shirts, the
I know.
tote bags.
There's all this stuff that's incredible.
Very
Yeah.
cool stuff. And
it's coming your way.
A lot of people work very, very hard to make this happen each and every time. And we try to keep our fundraising drives varied and unique. So that, I got a collection of shirts at home, Joey. I could wear a shirt from WMNF each day of the week and not wear the same shirt twice in the same week.
Right.
And I'm not the only one.
Right.
And long sleeve and short sleeve. So anyway, we would just love to hear from you next week.
And this voice that is in your community, that is about your community and about community in general, it is community, folks, that's going to save our culture. That's what's going to make it happen. It's going to be from the bottom up. And that's what's going to happen.
I think
it's not from the top down.
I think people are starting to realize that more than ever, and they're starting to kind of hold hands, and they're creating that link,
Yes.
that link of humanity.
Yes.
And that's where this is all going to come from, as you say, Joey, so perfectly.
And in the realm of radio, yes, there's all this corporate stuff out there that you can choose as a product to utilize. But stay with us. and support community.
St. Pete just called in, and they said unequivocally and with 4 exclamation points, yes. So they were screaming into the phone, yes, that they appreciated Bad Bunny's performance on Sunday, as did most of us. Joe, we got about 1 minute to go. I love it when I'm looking at the clock and it tells me we've got a minute to go. So
well, let's do this.
Yeah, why don't you let everybody know who's coming up?
Let me say, first of all, as always, special thanks to Jessica. We couldn't do this without her.
Literally.
She is the third person
Thank
here.
you, Jess.
And she is the OG of board ops.
Yes.
And
the only one she says.
And also thank you to Gabrielle, who is our phone taker today. She's in the back with the beautiful silver hair.
Yep.
I'm so envious
Who's coming
of her
next?
hair. And coming next is Doug Rink is going to be sitting
There
in
he is. Hey, Doug, waving at him.
for Sam Bam Bam I Am. He's going to be sitting in and playing for tunes for the afternoon for you.
Thank you, everybody, for being there for us today and each and every week. We look forward to being with you next week on our fundraising drive. As always, you're listening to WMNF Tampa. So long, everybody.